delve into the Shemona Esrei to understand what we're actually saying. The words, I mean, obviously the Pirush HaMilos, but something deeper. And we have to understand what's the intention. What are we going to do exactly, and why we want to do it. Because there is kavanas. You can take there's kavanas hari, kavanas rashash. There's lots of kavanas at tefillah. So what are we going to do? So behekton, just a few introductions before we understand what the Shemona Esrei is, and what is it that we do when we have kavanah. What's the idea of the intention? What's intention in tefillah? So there's this is the most simple level of intention. Is also Pirush HaMilos. It's basically an understanding of the words that you're saying. So you're davening, you have to know what you're saying. Say the words correctly. But there's tefillah, the idea of davening in general. There is a kavanah klalis, a general understanding of what you're doing. And without this kavanah klalis, without this general understanding of what you're doing, there is no chefza tefillah. There is no existence of tefillah. There's no tefillah without some type of general kavanah. Now, if you don't have a kavanah pratius, this is basically that's Reb Chaim. If you don't have a kavanah pratius, a specific intention, so let's say you're saying Rafeinu Hashem in one of the Shemona Esrei, and you don't really know what you're saying, you're still going to be yotzei. You're still going to fulfill your obligation. But if you don't have a kavanah klalis, a general understanding, then you're not yotzei in the mitzvah. It's not only yotzei in the mitzvah, not only you didn't fulfill your obligation, but you actually didn't do anything. You're not really doing anything. There's no mitzvah. There's no existence of a construct of davening if you don't know what you're doing. So it's important to understand this. So we're talking about a very general kavanah. This is one way. There's a kavanah klaus. That if you look at the Rambam, if you start like this is a classic way to understand this. You look at the Rambam, and Hilchos Tefillah, we don't have it in the pages, but in Hilchos Tefillah, the Rambam writes that there's chamisha dvar ma'akev tefillah. There are 5 things that is ma'akev, holds back the idea of tefillah. And one of them is kavanah. So even though the Rambam, what he calls kavanah salev, the kavanah of the heart, which is, even though the law is that if you didn't have a kavanah pratius for the first bracha of Shemona Esrei, the first thing, the first opening of Shemona Esrei, then you didn't fulfill your obligation. But that's kavanah pratius, to know exactly what you're saying. But a kavanah klal is a general. If you don't understand, there's no kavanah. What is kavanah salev? So the Rambam writes, kavanah salev keitza kol tefillah she'eina b'kavanah eina tefillah. Any tefillah that is said without kavanah is not a tefillah. What is kavanah? What is this intention? She'yapadas libim b'kol ha'machshavas v'yir atzma kilu oimid lifnei hashchina. That a person should empty his heart and direct it only to the awareness that they're standing in front of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, and therefore they would wait. They would settle their time for 1 hour, and they would wait to get into this proper state. That's what we're going to try to figure out. They waited for an hour. So the Rambam writes in the Shemona Prakim, lahashkit machshavseim, to quiet their minds. So they quieted their minds. They davened for 1 hour. Davening, remember, when we say davening, tefillah, we're talking about Shemona Esrei. That's tefillah. Tefillah is Shemona Esrei. When Chazal call tefillah, they're talking about Shemona Esrei. They're not talking about Ash. That's all introduction to tefillah. Gishma is a separate thing. There's a language over here that the Rambam writes in Perikei Halacha Daled V'yiliboy pane l'mayla ki oimed b'shamayim. It's a very interesting language. His heart should be empty and as if you're standing in heaven. Uminiach sorry. V'yiliboy pane l'mayla ki oimed b'shamayim. Uminiach yad liboy ki okay. That you should liboy. That's so. Yiliboy pane l'mayla ki oimed b'shamayim, as if you're standing in heaven. What does that mean? What does that mean? That's the Rambam saying. This is, when you say that, you have to be kilu pnei ashchina. The Rambam says kilu pnei ashchina. It's not literal, but kilu pnei shamayim. You have to imagine yourself that you're in the heavens. So this is the idea of a kavana klolis and a kavana prodis. Let's just keep this in mind a second. So the kavana klolis is the general idea that I'm present in front of the Shekhinah's presence. I imagine myself being in the sky, up, I don't know, in Shamayim, in heavens. And I'm davening, that's where I'm davening. That's where my thoughts are. This is the general, this is the Chefza Tefillah. The Chefza Tefillah means the concept of Tefillah needs this kavanah. You don't have this kavanah, it doesn't work. I'm sorry, one thing. The Rambam also says, Rambam also famously writes that the mitzvah there's a mitzvah every single day to daven. There's a mitzvah every single day min HaTorah to daven. Shenemar avad Hashem l'keichem, as it says, to serve Hashem. So Eis Avodah Shebelev Zut Tefillah. That's the Gemara says at the beginning of Tainus. Eis Avodah Shebelev. What does it mean? Service of the heart. Service of the heart is davening. So therefore, there's a mitzvah saseh lispal, there's a mitzvah saseh to daven every single day. This mitzvah essay to daven every single day is argued. The Ramban says that there is no mitzvah essay to daven every single day. The mitzvah is when a person is in need, b'shas hatzara, in some type of difficulty in his life, then there's a mitzvah essay to daven. But to daven every single day is not a mitzvah min HaTorah. This is the Shittas Ramban. God, the Alter Rebbe writes in Likutei Torah that the reason why the Ramban doesn't consider the mitzvah essay to daven every single day, because the Ramban says that all the mitzvahs, this is the Gemara, the Zohar says, the Gemara says, correspond to the parts of the body. So the tefillah is the chut hashedra, is like the backbone. So therefore, the backbone is not like the hand, the leg. You don't have a body without a backbone, literally and metaphorically. So it says tefillah is the backbone of all of Yiddishkeit. And if you don't have the backbone, you don't have anything. Famously, the Alter Rebbe also said that when he was younger, he had two places to go. He was able to go to. He was a big scholar, he was a big genius. And he said there was two yeshivas, two schools of thought that he was possible to go. He either go to Vilna, become a Talmud of the Gra, or to go to Mezritch and become a Talmud of the Maggid. And he said in Vilna they're going to teach him how to learn, and in Mezritch they're going to teach him how to daven. He says davening and learning I know a little bit already, but davening I don't know anything. So he went to Mezritch. What's pshat the davening? Davening really means the transference of ideas of, instead of understanding something like intellectually, to really transfer it into something that's personal. That every Torah that you learn really can become a tefillah, right? Which means the Torah becomes a tefillah when you say this is the idea, and then you say, okay, so how is that relevant to my life? Once you turn it inwards, it becomes a process of tefillah. You learn something, whatever you learn, and then you say that this is going to be relevant to my own personal avodah, then it's transferred. It becomes something that's personal. So there's the general kavanah that I am standing in front of Hashem. We don't understand yet what that means fully, but let's just pretend we do. I am standing in front of Hashem's presence. I'm standing in front of the Shekhinah, and I'm in dialogue. That's the first. That's the general. Then the question becomes about the specifics. What are we actually saying? So there's a nusach tefillah. There's a certain liturgy that we have for and tefillah again. Tefillah Shmoneh Esrei. That's the Yerushalmi calls it tefillah, but that's what it is. Tefillah Shmoneh Esrei. There's the Nusach HaTfilah, there's actually the liturgy of the Tefillah. In the liturgy of the Tefillah, the Nusach actually has words. There are words to the Tefillah. So the question is, in the words, let's say Rafeinu Hashem, which says Hashem to heal us. Is the intention to have a general understanding of what Rafeinu Hashem is? Or are the words, since they're set up by the Anshe Knesset Agdoila, does every single word actually really matter? Do we have to, when you daven Rafeinu Hashem heal us, are you supposed to say Rafeinu? What does Rafeinu mean? Hashem, V'nei Rafei, if Hashem is Rafeinu, so then V'nei Rafei is already healed. Vale Aruch or Refuah, like what's the difference between Aruch and what's Refuah? Is that the intention, that we're supposed to like stop at every single word and delve into the specific meaning of it? Or is there just a general Kavanah Klolis, it's just a general understanding, and that's the way you're supposed to daven? Rafeinu Hashem to heal us, then you say the words. And sort of the words are like these the codes that open up this Refuah. So this is interesting because the first Mukubalim that were interested in deciphering the Kavanah Proteus of every single word were the Chasidei Ashkenaz. So the Chasidei Ashkenaz, this is the Messiah from Chasidei Ashkenaz. Chasidei Ashkenaz is a group of Mukubalim that lived in Ashkenaz, that lived in Germany, in Mainz, and Spiro, and those Gemenze, those three little towns on the Rhine. And this goes back to already from the 8th century, 9th century. And then by the time you reach the 12th, 13th century, you have Rabbi Yehuda Chassid and Elazar Gemaiza. These are the some of the famous rabbis. They're all part of, by the way, they're all part of one family. They're the Klonos family. They're an Italian family that came down in the 700s. They came down to Germany. It's a small group. It's a very small group. But you think that Chasidei Ashkenaz was like, thousands of people. It was like 500, maybe. But it was like a family of very, very big tzaddikim, very big people. And they were the first ones, the Chasidei Ashkenaz, and particularly the Baal Rekeach, and also Sefer Chassidim, was the one that was very interested in you say, the Gemara says that why they call it Seifrim, because he used to count the letters of the Torah. That's the Torah. Yeah, you never had anyone counting the letters of the Mishnah, right? How many letters in the Mishnah? Maybe, yeah, but that's not the regular way people learn Mishnah. How many letters in the Mishnah? Why does the Mishnah start with Mem, not Shin? I mean, there's such a Torah like this. But there was no one, the first ones that were doing this to Tefillah, to the Nusach HaTefillah, was the Chasidei Ashkenaz. Or at least this is the Messiah that we have. So the Chasidei Ashkenaz were interested in counting the letters. There was a precise measurement to every letter, to every word, and therefore every word had significance. So there was an understanding that the Nusach, the specific version that you're saying, is not just the Kavanah Klolis we have to have a general intention, but it's also very specific to the Kavanah Proteus, very intentional to this Kavanah. And later you find already the Torah quotes the Rekeach. You'll see soon in some of the sources where it talks about the Shemona Esrei, it'll say the V'doisher Shumai say that there is this amount of letters for this bracha and this amount of letters for this bracha, and sometimes the Torah himself says, I'm not sure why there are this amount of letters, and could be this is the reason, but there was already a Messiah from the Chasidei Ashkenaz. Remember the Rosh, and the Rosh is really Ashkenaz, even though they live in Toledo in Spain, but they're really Ashkenazic Eden, right? You're familiar with the story, right? So they're really, they come from Ashkenaz, and they end up moving to Sfar because of persecutions. They're really Ashkenaz Eden. So the Ashkenazic Besorah has this very strong. The next real strong development that really took this to the highest level was the writings of the Ari. So in the Toras Ari, and the writings of the Ari, Pri Etz Chaim, and Sha'ar Kavanos, there's a very very detailed, oriented kavanas to machaven, to have intention for every single word. Every single word means something else, and we'll see that all these words are like code words to draw down different koiches and different chayas and different oiris, different lights. It's a whole big thing, and there's a lot of kavanas that are just on the very specific, on a very detailed, oriented. Now the shaila is, which is really interesting question, is what's with the Toras of Baal Shem? How do we Toras Chassidus? What happened with Toras Chassidus? Because if you look very superficially in the Siddur of the Baal Shem. Now there's a Siddur of Baal Shem. If you look in the Siddur of the Baal Shem, you'll see that there's Kavanas. There's Kavanas. The Siddur of Shapsai, which is one of Timothy Baal Shem, is a Siddari. I have it right over here. It's a Siddur at my desk over here. Is a Siddari from Rab Shapsai. That's the Siddur that the Baal Shem davened with the Kavanas Ari, which is one way. Even they have now. Someone showed me. It's top secret, but I saw it. Someone has the Siddur of the Magid of Mezrich. It's also full of Kavanas. It's full of Kavanas all around. I don't know exactly which nusach it is, but this full of Kavanas. They have an Ashkenaz, by the way. The Baal Shem.
Someone specific write it for them? With these
Yeah, and like L'chura, it seems that way. It seems like it was a nusach. Reb Shapsai is the Siddur. The Siddur of Shapsai is the Siddur.
Who was he?
Reb Shapsai Rakashaver. He was one of the Talmidei Baal Shem in the same school. Huh? He's about Tefillah? Huh? You know, the truth is I was very scared to look at it. I just saw the cover. I didn't want to open it. I'll tell you about it, but there's definitely no, I don't know if it's handwritten.
Is it the same as the Arizal? More or less?
It's all similar to the Ari, yeah, similar to the Ari. But in general, the question is, which is a really important question, is how did the Baal Shem Tov relate to the Kavanas Ari? How did the Baal Shem relate to Kavanas Ari? It's a very simple shaila, because after post Ari, all Mukabalim accepted Ari's Torah as Torah, and it's Torah Semes, and that's the way we daven. So all Sidurim that have any form of Kavanas is Kavanas Ari in a different version. The Kavanas Rashash is Kavanas Ari, just more Ba'omek, more in expanded and Mokim, but it's the same. It's the same Kavanas with further expansion. What's the proper way to daven? Are you supposed to have Kavanas Ari? Because in the Torah, and we'll see. It's a very big conversation. We'll get slowly into this. In the Torah of Baal Shem itself, it seems that b'shas davening, like when you're saying the words, clearly you don't have to have kavanas. He says if you have kavana while you're saying the words, you are in a sense really limiting the word to its full potential. Because let's say you're mechaven the highest possible potential kavana that you can have. But he says the words have so much more meaning than what little you can imagine. So if you say, this is the kavana, you just reduce it to that. Okay, so that is that. But if you just say the words themselves, you miskash yourself with the oasis himself, then you say, I'm miskash, whatever the oasis are. I don't know what they are. I don't have no understanding. But wherever they are, I'm going to say them. So this is, the Baal Shem writes this clearly. This is definitely one. But that's b'shas when you're saying the word. But are you supposed to mechaven before? Is there an intention to mechaven before? Sometime, and then the bigger conversation is, which is a very important conversation, is what is Kavanas Ari? What is it? What is exactly is this? What is this whole thing? What is it? What is Kavanas Ari? I don't know if you understand my question, but it's a big question. Like, what is this? This is. It sounds like it's like if you don't know what it is, it sounds like it's like. The Ari said davening, and then he's saying that there's something going on like on a super structured world on a cosmic level, and you're mechaven to this, to that, the other thing. There's like this whole process. But if you do this, by the way, you're not davening. I mean, you're doing something different, maybe something very holy, but you're not talking to Hashem. It doesn't seem that way. Like if imagine if I'm talking to you and I'm saying, by the way, I'm thinking is really about something totally else, but because I'm really doing something different. So I'm saying Baruch Atah Hashem, but Baruch really means the Beis with the Reish, the Chaf, which is the two Isis, which is Shnaim. Okay, I got some Maisa. Did you say Baruch? Are you talking to me? You're saying Baruch? No, because you're mechaven something else. So how does it actually work? What's going on? And really, the issue is that the Arizal was mechaven the Kavanas Ari. Do you understand? The Arizal didn't read the page and say, what is a Kavanas Ari? The Arizal experienced the Kavanas Arizal, and then Reb Chaim Vital wrote down the experience of what the Arizal had. So you're reading an experience of what someone had. Now, how did the Arizal have that experience? That's another question. But let's just say like this, that when you look at an Elon, if let's say you look at a tree, you see a tree, But if you're a scientist, you'll maybe see molecules. I don't know. Maybe you'll see atoms. I don't know. You'll see it a little differently. And if you're Dari, you see Shem Havai and Shem Adnai. You understand? And it's 91, so it's healing Gematria. In other words, Dari is not superimposing an idea to what the tree is. You're following what I'm saying? He's not looking at the tree and saying, okay, I read in the book that Elon is Gematria Tzadik Aleph, Shem Havai. Now I see the tree, it's Tzadik Aleph. When Arizal looked at the tree, that's what he experienced. That's what he saw. So now when you're reading that experience, you're projecting it onto the experience. So then it's not. Then you're like, besides that, you're not davening. You're 2 steps removed. You're like you're not davening, and now you're speaking about someone else's experience. And Dari says that every single tefillah that he davened was different. So we can imagine that everything in Kavanas Ari is like one snippet of one davening that Dari Yisrael had on one afternoon, or one shachris. You understand? That was the way it was. So we have to really understand, like, what are we doing? How we deal with kavanah? So we have to figure this out more, and especially if we're going to try to figure out some kavanas, some intentions. Like, what's the intention? Why did we say Rafeinu Hashem and Eirafait? Pirush Hamilus. Just say the words, just what they mean, and you're good. Why? Forget it. I don't understand anything. I don't know anything. I need mispala das atinik, right? It says in the Rishonim. In the Rivash. So I need mispala das atinik. So that's down like a tinik. Okay, so this is some of the things that we have to understand. And so let's go slowly into some of the sources over here. The first source is from Marie Parlot. I don't know if you know what that is, but if you don't, you know Marie Parlot? So he was one of the big goyim in Poland, Polish goyim. You ever heard of Yosef Engel? You ever heard of Menachem Zemba?
Yes.
You ever heard the Kolazher Clever? They're all part of the same sugya. There was a certain type of gon that, unfortunately the Polish jury was wiped out. So we have very little remnants of this. The same period. They all lived right before the war. Right before the second. The Srots, the same thing. There were people that knew Kol HaTorah Kula, and the way they learned was as a Wildkeit. They pull them, but mamish wilde cap, and they're
Beginning of the 20th century.
beginning of the 20th century. They're all in the same, and the Klichemda, they're all part of the same group. And you read the Svarim, you can't tell which one's writing which. Forschlanger is also one of them. Talmud Sachachov and Avnei Nezer. It's that same, all part of the same school. So he wrote a commentary. He wrote a pirush. Marie Parlot wrote a pirush on Psad Yagon, and Sefer Mitzvah Psad Yagon. So he starts off just a nice Maramokim, because the Rambam says that is a mitzvah min HaTorah lispala b'chol yom. How do you know mitzvah min HaTorah? Before you read the Marie Parlot, how do you know mitzvah min HaTorah? Because l'avdu b'chol levavchem, eiz avodah shebelev, zut tefillah. Okay, why every day? Why every day? L'avdu b'chol levavchem. Maybe once a year. It says l'avdu b'chol levavchem. You should serve Hashem with all your heart. When?
Hashem Neshman Tzavchayim. The next passage, no?
What? Yeah. Yeah. Mitzavcha yom. The tzivu is a yom. The yom the mitzavcha for every day. Where does it say love them chalavachim? Huh? That's Krishma.
No, it's a whole list, including Krishma. The last thing on the list is
Just
just
like
half.
so half is not every day. Maybe just on Shabbos.
It's a mitzvah midias. So that's good. That's good. Maybe it's a mitzvah midias. Okay, let's track this up. By the way, let's track this back a second. By the way, you know the Brisker Torah about the film, right? You're familiar with the Brisker Torah.
No.
How did the Briskers learn the Kshatim Lois Yedach Vayotayt Menacha? Doesn't say you have to put on tefillin every day. It just have to put on the ois between the time of an ois and ois. So between Ben Shabbos Shabbos, you have to put on tefillin. When is the mitzvah to put on tefillin? As long as you can. So in the Brisker, this is the Brisker Torah.
One day, twice.
It's more better than wearing it. If you wear tefillin 6 hours one day, it's better than wearing it 6 days for 3 hours in total. It's a vild of svara because the Torah doesn't actually say that. It just says the ois. I don't know. Of course, they put on tefillin every day. But I'm just saying this: if you read Pshat in the pasuk, the simple interpretation of the pasuk, where does it say love them chol Here's the word. So he brings down from the Custom the mitzvahs min ha'Torah lispal l'chol yom ela shein l'minyan tefillas l'izman ha'tefillah shekavua. This is min ha'Torah. This the Rambam writes as a mitzvah every day to daven. How many times a day is not relevant? Tzarachin l'chayr the masha custom Rambam mitzvah min ha'Torah lispal l'chol yom. Nafkel mitzvah v'avchem aha. Sorry. This is the answer. The Mabit writes the Akira Sefer, because the pasuk says after Hashem lekechem uverches lachmecha vesmecha, and Hashem should give a bracha to your food and to your drink. V'lechem mayim tzibachol yoim is keshvil lechem l'mayim. That just like lechem l'mayim, it says that and Hashem will bless your bread and water every day. Every day you need to eat. So therefore, maybe every 3 days, But the idea is that you need to eat. So therefore, every day is a mitzvah to eat. And he goes on this whole arucha how this. Huh?
He says this already.
Baruch Hashem.
No, he says that if davening is like Muslim for
The Muslim nefesh. That's true. That's very good. It's a good shutzel. You're right. Okay. Anyways, that's the vart. The point is that you have to daven. What's in the Gale and in The point is that you have to daven. Why? Because you have to daven. That's why. You need to eat. Why do I need to eat? Because you just need to eat. You don't ask yourself, why do I need to eat? You eat because you're hungry. And you want to say you want to put on tefillin? Okay, that's a mitzvah. That's a proactive thing you have to do. Why do you daven? I don't know. Why do you breathe? This is the oimik what the Rambam's saying. You understand? He's saying that if you just like you need bread and water, it's a necessity to life. It's not a luxury. Maybe tefillin is a luxury. I like to put on tefillin. It's a nice thing. I'll put on tefillin. Davening? Davening is the chut hasheder. It's the backbone. You're not alive if you don't daven. You following what the Rambam was saying? That's what he's saying. Just like you need bread and water, you need to live, and therefore you need to live. You need to daven.
That's not a black and white proof.
I don't say exactly. You can argue with that.
No,
of course.
it's not like.
No, it's not a solid proof because
intellectual,
no, it's not a solid proof because a person can make a neder. He's not going to eat for a few days. You can go with food for no day. It's a shua. It's not a shua shav, right? You can promise not to eat for 7 days maybe, but for 1 day you can go without food. If you say you're going to fast for 8 days, it's taka shua shav. Anyways, Darish Rishon is here as you have from the tour. The Rosh Tevis, the Shmoina Esrei, the minion of the Rosh Tevis, the numeric value of the Rosh Tevis, the beginning letters of each of the Shmoina Esrei, equals the amount of malachim that Makabel Tefillah. It's not relevant what this means. What is relevant is that someone counted it. There was a person that sat down and said, Reish is 200, and Allah Tzikim is 70, and did a whole gematria. Maybe it took him 10 minutes, maybe it took 2 hours. I don't know, it's not relevant. The point is that there was an understanding that it had value. That the fact that Vilam al-Shinim starts with a Vav means that it's a continuation from the previous one. It's not just Vilam al-Shinim, it's a continuation of the previous tefillah. The fact that it starts Rifa'enu Hashem, not Hashem Rifa'enu, means that there's something about Rifa'enu, then comes Hashem. In other words, there's inherent value to the specific details of every single Nusrat Tefillah. Not only that, let's just read one last another piece from the Torah. Lashon Achi Rabbi Yechiel, he says from his brother, and here he writes clearly, Doishe Shumas Hem Chasidi Ashkenaz. This is the Chasidi Ashkenaz. Asher Shoiklim v'Soifrim Misr Mini Tevis Atfilas v'Abrachas Kenegam Asher Niknu b'Sholosh Brachas Rishonis Yesh Meiv Tishim. And then he goes on to all what they're all exactly. And then he says, we talked about the first Magen Avram. He says it has 42 words, and he says Yesh Arbaim v'Shnayim Tevis v'Loy Nizgali Time of Echem Ababi Yadi Achideh. He says I'll take whatever I can and try to figure out a reason, which I don't know. In other words, there was a reason. And then, by the way, the Ari is going to have a lot of reasons why Shem and Beis. It's a big thing, but there is already an understanding that the nusach is very meduik, is very detailed, and we should pay attention to every single thing. And the next Marmok very quickly is from the Shar Koilel. Shar Koilel is a sefer that's printed together with Alter Rebbe Siddur. It's Akdama Shar Koilel. Shar Koilel is Avram David Levut, which is a big Lubavitcher Chassid, the Talmud Tzemach Tzedek, the Marash, got the Kuzeda from the Rebbe, and he wrote a pirush on the Siddur. So he writes, Admor Reb Shnei Zalman Bal Shulchan Aruch Tanya. Mesal Pinus Arizal, Hani Shaloi Hivi B'Siddur Rak Mash Mekubal Pi Kisvei Mesim Mash Lamda Poskim Migmar of Chilkei Halacha. He said the Alter Rebbe Siddur is very meduyik because it's based on the teachings of the Arizal, but it's also what according to the Poskim, according to what it's the Achros in Halacha. V'diktak Shatevis Yichol Asasoidish Behem. And he was very medactic that the soidas should be revealed in the exact wording. So he wouldn't pull out a word if he didn't think that word needed or didn't need it.
So where does Sfar come from with all the additions?
That's a very good question. That's a good question. Nusach,
No.
Nusach Svard.
All the added words, right? There-
Sfar doesn't
One came
say-
first, one came second. So then,
Then
I heard that that's the machlokes.
So that's the big
That's
machlokes.
the big machlokes.
Yeah.
What-
Sfar is Arizal.
Arizal is a version.
It's-
Yeah, it's not mamish Nusach Svard.
It's not exactly a result.
But we don't actually. I'll tell you the honest truth. We don't actually have the Arizal. That's the funny thing. People say Nusach Ari. It's Alpi. If you look in the Siddur, the Alter writes Alpi Nusach Ari.
Everyone's still being.
Yeah, because why? Because we actually the Ari didn't daven Nusach Ari himself. The Ari was half Ashkenazi, half Sephardi, right?
He says Vishamra.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay, I'll also say Vishamra. No, the Alter Rebbe even put this Vishamra in the Siddur. You know, the Maisa the Baditchev asked the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe put Vishamra in the Siddur. The Alter Rebbe is very makbid on Nisra Gula Tefillah, even by Laila. I don't know if you know, B'Mayev, there's some people are makbid, some people are not makbid. What?
That's it.
Like the God? What?
They don't say-
No, it's not the Shabbat, no, not. No, you don't say anything. It's a, by the way, it's a Gemara. The Gemara says if you're makbid by night or by day is the gula is not happen by day. By night is aschalus gula. So the shaila is if you're makbid gula to feel. Alter Rebbe was makbid, so he put him v'shamru. So the Baditchev told him. It says in Sforim that when you say v'shamru, vet agresi yirid in the shamayim. There's like a big party in heaven when you say v'shamru. So the Alter Rebbe said, yeah, but not by every party you have to go. You don't have to go to every party. Nicht by Yid again. So, it's not a party. But the Alter Rebbe put it in. Obviously, the Alter Rebbe wanted it maybe to say with a kavanah, with your mind, but
But the whole diktuk oisius that we're talking about
Yeah.
it falls away by the new Nusach Sfar that's we have.
correct. So we'll try to get to that.
They
Let's.
compensate each other. They take out certain words from one pasuk, from one.
It can sein.
part,
But it's
and
written by
another,
Hachik Nes
and
Sagdola,
it
and
adds up to
you
the
see how.
But we're talking also. Remember, we're talking about Shmoneh. That's the
Yeah,
weird.
so much Shmoneh Esrei.
Yeah, yeah. So, and depends which parts of Shmoneh. The later parts of Shmoneh, like Elkan Yitzhar, is not. That's added.
How do you reckon the differences in Nusach Ashkenaz Nusach Sfar in the original brachas? There's the difference.
There's definitely a difference. There's definitely a difference. No, so there's this. By the way, this is a big. I don't want to get into this. Is a big machlokes aposkim. You know, there's a big machlokes aposkim. If you daven, if you, that's not big. The question is, could you change nusach? Could you change nusach? So the common halacha, granted that most of the poskim that paskin like this were chassidish rabbanim, the Mukach and the V'chaim, they were paskin like this. But most say that you can change from Ashkenaz to Sfarad. And that's what Takat Talmidei Baal Shem eventually did. They changed it to Nusach Sfarad. But you're not allowed to change from Sfarad to Ashkenaz.
That's the reason.
Also, because Nusach Sfarad is more meduik.
More than it.
More meduik.
How it's later.
I'm just telling you're asking shilas. I'm just saying this is the way it is. We don't even know what we're talking about
One is
yet.
ancient. One is ancient and one is medieval.
But the medievals of Kabbalah, there was reasons.
Obviously, so was.
I understand that. I understand. So there's good.
But if the early
You really know what it means?
If the early Minhagi Ashkenaz,
Yeah.
Chassidei Ashkenaz
Yeah.
were being meduik in what Anshe Knesset Gedola says,
Yeah.
then that was also
Okay, so they had now. The Zohar was printed. There was other things that were added, and therefore they were medayik. Yeah. So he said, "Misha Charon Loisa Hashem Yisbarach Lahavan Lahaskel Lahamik Das Mizbanu Dachuz Yisbarach Kolachad from Shir Delay Matoiv." Someone that can be mamik and to think about the kavanas Matoiv. Misha Yirtzel Lachavan Osei This Kavanas Yinzel Priyatz Chai Mishas Chassidim V'Sidar Arizal Voitzvorm. Then he says,
And so the Kavanas originally written in the margin, what you say,
as opposed to,
as opposed to inside.
of course, yeah, they're in around. Okay, then he says maybe if you read it here, he says it's not Medayik Ashkenaz and Sfarad. Let's leave it alone because we're gonna have to talk about it, but let's leave it alone for now. There's one other quick Maramakin about this. It's from the Pnei Yeshua. If you can read it, it's a little small. The next Maramakin Shar Koil, but we'll get back to this Maramakin. It's a nice Maramakim because you have the Play Yeshua, which is from a different, a different genre. The Play Yeshua writes, it's in Brachas. You see in the bottom left column. Shekol Baruch Satfilas Mishodim Al Hadni pause. B'mispar Tevis Oisis Gvur P'tor Etz Chaim. V'vad sheyesh bo psoid mufla. Die Leute haben auch immer schon mal gesagt, klum yesh adam sheidei l'saken. Da viele Noshim, die dann namlu yochel l'saken kim shein in ela klolos. He writes something very funny. He says that the Gemara says that when it comes to Birchas HaTzadukim, he said who can do it, and then Shmuel HaKatan was able to misaken because his Labashinim. So he said, why does it have to be so? He said because every ois is very metukin. He says if you're talking about klolos, the curse, even every single woman knows how to say the right curse. That's what he writes. That's a shaita, right? Look what he says. Yesh adam sheidei l'saken. Ha'afilu noshe di done. Ich nechem l'saken kach. Yeah, so therefore there has to be. Anyways, I mean, people know how to curse. When you're talking about cursing, so obviously there has to be a kavanah. Okay, this is the kavanah in general. Let's pull this back. I just want. I'm sorry. One more Maramakim. This is from the Avudram. The next page is from the Avudram. Now, the Avudram is an interesting Maramakim because the Avudram is Sfardi. So if you know the Abu is also Sfardi. Yeah? Diram is probably money. He was a money lender. So Avudram is from the later Sfardish Rishonim, and he wrote like a collection of all different types of things. The Nusach HaTfilah. So he writes over here. There are some people that count them. And it says they bring psukim to draw parallels to it. I used to do like that. He's the first. What?
He refers to the Torah.
To the Torah, yeah, everyone. Hey, no, he's writing before the Torah.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's before the Torah. He's the Torah's later. So he's writing B'chal. He heard probably from Ashkenaz. He's Sfardi. So he heard from Ashkenaz that people like Balokeh. He heard that the people was talking about it. He says I also was involved in this. But kind of like what you're saying. There's no Shemon it's exactly the same. Everyone has different tavis. And yesh mesifim tavis, yesh goyim. Yeah. So therefore, he says I don't follow this. And therefore, I think probably when Nusach Sard was developing, it was the different problems. So they had it this way. Anyways, this is a machlekes Rishonim. But we're going to go to the opinion that it's.
There's no point. It says it's just each one would have to do it himself.
That's the only yisoid the leishayers. That's pretty much.
But then you have to.
Minion as eine Moel
Yeah, I understand, but.
So there's a point. It's just why.
Ken Zayin, he's saying, yeah, Ken Zayin. But at first he says, L'shein L'yisoy V'Leishayers. Has a meaning to figure it out. Every person should figure the meaning. No, but that's actually, this is an oimik. This is an oimik, really, because it's relevant. Yeah, this is going to be, exactly. This is going to be the oimik of this pshat. So then, how do we, this is all pre-Baal Shem. And this is kavanah. This is a very specific kavanah. So you have intention for a specific kavanah. What happens with when it comes to Teres Baal Shem? So the Toldus writes b'Shem Baal Shem that if you look at the left column, Toldus in Parshas Ve'era, v'gam lachshev chashboinus. This is the lashon. To lachshev chashboinus ein ikar kavanas Hashem is aniskar kavanas Hashem. The lachshev chashboinus, you're going to make calculations. You're going to sit down with the calculator and say that the numerical value of this is the same numerical value of that. It says that's not the kavanah of the Ari. Rak ledabek ulekasher is atzmei. To medavek umekasher atzmei. The idea of the kavanah is that you're in the place of the kavanah. Again, important. In other words, I can think about a kavanah. I have this certain kavanah. I'm thinking about some abstract idea. There's olam atzilus. I'm going to try to start rounding up here. I'm going to try to say that there's the olam atzilus is like there's some type of understanding, and I am mechav, and I understand what there's a certain oir, a certain light that exists in a certain world, a certain spiritual world, and that's the mechav. That's what I have intention for. He says, no, that's not what the Torah of Baal Shem is saying. The Torah of Baal Shem is saying is that when you mechavan the kavanas hari, if you are mechavan, you have to mechavan in a way, you have to have an intention in a way that you're actually experiencing what that is. If you're saying, I'm drawing down, let's say, for example, I'm drawing down Chacham Adatzil, let's say at this, like the highest level of pure consciousness in the world of Bina, on a level of Atzilus. Okay, that could be a very, very abstract idea. Or you're saying that it's actually, I am actually experiencing what I'm having kavanah now. When I'm having kavanah for this Chacham Adatzilus, I'm actually experiencing the Chacham Adatzilus. It's a very different way of thinking about it. We have to talk about this. We have to talk this out a second because it's important. I'll talk about it later, but I think it's very important to talk about it right now. So we'll talk about it right now, like this. We're going to get to this hopefully, but the idea, in a very, very quick, and then we'll get to it more in detail. That there's a story with the Maggid that he was davening, and a friend of his came to him and said that he doesn't understand. We both learn together, and you daven and it takes you a half hour, or an hour, whatever long it took you, and me it takes 3 minutes. We say the same words. What's the difference? So he said he's mechavan kavanas hari, or he has intention. He said I also have intention. So he said the difference is, he says he said the guy was a merchant. He said if you have goods, and you want to sell your goods, so you sell it in Leipzig. So he says, why do you have to go to Leipzig? Leipzig was a place in Germany that had a marketplace. So why do you have to go to Leipzig? You should just mechavan. Sorry, I'm messing up the story. The guy answered him, said, what's the kavanah hari? So he said, kavanah is to mechavan that place. That I'm mechavan, let's say, Chacham Adatzilus. Let's say I have intention for Chacham Adatzilus. So the person says, I'm also mechavan Chacham Adatzilus. I do the same thing. It still doesn't take me as long as you. So the Maggid told him, he says, when you want to sell merchandise and you have to go to Leipzig, do you physically have to go to Leipzig, or you just go to Leipzig in your mind? Say, I'm going to go to Leipzig, I have to sell gloves. I'm mechavan to go to Leipzig and I'll sell my gloves. No, in order to get to sell your gloves, you actually have to go to Leipzig. He says, when you want to mechavan kavanas hari and you're saying Chacham Adatzilus, you have to be there. Whatever you have to be there. This is the important understanding of what we're trying to say is you have to actually experience it. There's some type of experience. Now you can ask. And this is important to understand. So when we're talking about Shemon Esrei, which we'll see soon, Shemon Esrei is like the level of Atzilus, which is the level of let's just say it's a place of pure light, pure oil, of ayin, of ispashtus, and of letting go of the physicality, and your mamish in a place of oil. There's a place of pure light. Now you'll say, okay, so, and I just experienced it. What am I experiencing it? What does it mean to experience it? So, every level of Atzilus is the ayin within the expression of that yesh. So there's Atzilus in Asiya, there's Atzilus in Bria, and Atzilus in Yitzir, Atzilus in Atzilus. Which means, like this. If a person, in very simple language, a person is a Grub Jung. What's not the Grub Jung? I don't have to explain what a Grub Jung is, but let's say, what does it mean in the analogy we're talking about? A person has, his machshavas are not clean, his emotions are not perfect, he has taivas on a physical level fully, and then during Shemon Esrei, he lets go of all these things, right? And he enters through some type of process. He enters the place where he feels completely disentangled from all this narishkeit that he's normally attached to, and he feels that he's experiencing some level of dveikos, some level of connectivity. What is the person experiencing? He's experiencing atzilus on the level of asiya. Because the level of asiya, which means if you enter into an experience, how much you enter into the experience, that's how much you're going to be tied to the experience. So if you enter that you're very attached to the physical world, very attached to the emotional world, attached negatively to the physical, the emotional, and to the mental, which is Bria, which is Asiya, Yitzir, and Bria, if you're very attached to that, even if you're having an experience that is Atzilus-like, it's the experience of Atzilus the way it's reflected in the world of Asiya. If you're a person that overcomes your taivas. You're a person you're not a bal taiva. You're not a glutton. You're a person that's a more refined human being. It means your emotions still, you get angry and you still get upset, you still worry and anxiety. These are on an emotional level. But on a physical level, your physical desires is something that you check. You don't overeat, you don't do things that are on a physical level that's a gross manifestation of your physicality. You don't do that. You're able that way. Then when you're experiencing Atzilus, you're experiencing Atzilus in Yetzirah. Why? Because the Asiya level, which is the physical level, is not pulling you down. Because you're free from that. So therefore, when you enter into the experience, your experience is the Atzilus on the level of Yetzirah. If you're a person that works itself out on an emotional level, that you're living freely and you're living without anxiety and living and depression, all these things, and emotionally you're empty of these negative emotions. When you're experiencing Atzilus, you're experiencing Atzilus of Bria. But if you're a person that still has attachments in your mind, and you still have, your brain is all scattered, and you can't think of a process correctly, you don't have Yeshua Das. So even though you're going to experience Atzilus, on the level of Bria, you're experiencing, you don't have a Siyan and Yetzir, but you have Bria. You have the Klippa of Bria. So which means that you're experiencing Atzilus of Bria. If a person's a person works themselves out, that they're not connected on a physical level, not on an emotional level, not on a mental level, they have clarity, their vessel's totally clean, is completely clean, then when that person's having experience of Atzilus. You're following? So it actually, it four people can be davening together. Each of them can actually experience something that's takahecher. It's certainly a completely transcendent experience that they normally experience throughout the day. But one is still going to come out, and then you can ask yourself a question. I don't understand. I just daven, and then I go fres, and then I go eat like nothing happened. I just had an Atzilus experience. I was so angelic. Well, it was Atzilus of Asiya, but you're still an Asiya, and that's who you are. So therefore, you do the same thing. If you work yourself out, then that wouldn't happen. It would be on the next grade. So the Atzilus experience of everything is the experience within the level that you're at. Wherever level you're at, that's the experience of the transcendence within the experience. What the Shulchan Aruch calls, what the Torah calls, I don't know where Shlomi went, but what it says that shoyim sha'achas, what they waited 1 hour, and Chazal say that what the Gemara says is that they experienced a spashas agashmi. The spashas agashmi, the divestment of the material body, that level of divestment is dependent on the level of your connection. If you divest yourself from your materiality, but you're still connected on the emotional level to all anxieties and pain and depression, so yes, physically you feel free and you have the experience of Atzilus, but you're still connected in the world of Yitzir that's still pulling you down. You're following? So it's how you enter into the experience. But the main idea, what he's saying is, what the Baal Shem is saying is, whether you're mechavan kavanah sari or you're not mechavan kavanah sari, and we'll see which and when and how, whether you do this or not, number one, you shouldn't be mechavan, like we said before, when you're saying the words, and we'll see soon why not, according to the Baal Shem. But most importantly, when you're mechavan, you have to actually experience it. Try to experience it, whatever level it is, on your madrega. So here you have if you turn the page, just skip this next page. You have from the Imre Pinchas, from the Pinchas Karitza. So Pinchas Karitza writes that Haderech Shel Baal Shem Tov, you see on the left column in Kuf Ayin Daled, the way of the Baal Shem, who kishemischaven kavona, when you're mechaven a kavona, tzarich la'ases uvda de kavona. You have to do the mice of the kavona. Meaning, I have an intention. I'm doing the experience of what the intention is. I'm not just having an intention. He talks about kavanas hamikvah. So that, I don't know if you're familiar with some of you read this book, but if you talk about that, there's the bottom is Shem Adnai and the walls is Shem Havaya and the upper is Shem Eka, which means that you're not just mechaven in the mind that you're experiencing it, but you're actually physically experiencing it because you're in the water, right? So you're actually feeling your feet touching the ground. That's not just a mental experience, but it's a physical experience. And when you're experiencing yourself, the absence of breathing when you're under the water, and then you emerge out of the water, which the Shittas Rambam is, that's when you become pure. When you enter out of the water, then you experience Shem Eke, which is the becoming state. So you're actually physically experiencing what the kavan is. You understand? You're equating yourself with the intention. He said this was the kavanas of Baal Shem. When the Baal Shem wrote Kavanas Baal Shem on mikveh, which is very unusual. This is one of the only Kavanas that we have for the Baal Shem, that is a similar kavana like the Ari. That because the Baal Shem generally writes doesn't have the kavanas of Baal Shem are not similar to the Ari. They're very different. This is using the same, almost the same construct of the Ari with these three names, and he's giving them a Chassidish twist, if you wish, or the Baal Shem twist. What's the twist? The twist on the Torah Sari. The twist on the Torah Sari is that we're not talking about some super thing that's happening in a cosmic level, but we're actually talking about you experiencing it. So it's very visceral. Look weiter. He says he brought them from April L'Shlamer that V'amber Rab Shmerel l'chein nika kavanas. It's called kavanas. The tzarich l'chavim v'loy tzarich l'achshav. Kavana doesn't say you should think this intention when you go into the mikvah. It says you should be mindful, which is kavana. He says, what does kavana mean? The kavana lashon shava mechavim. Kavana means equal. That you're equating yourself with the intention. A person becomes one with the actual intention that you're having the experience of. Very different than what you would think which is the intention of just that you're drawing it down. There's just interesting. There's a parallel. It's always interesting to see what was going on in the world, at least during the Baal Shem times. What was going on in the Baal Shem's universe? Where does this, where does this come? I don't know. Where does it come from? We don't know. It comes from Achia Shloini, but where does it come from? Like, where does in Das Tachna? Where does it appear? So there was a klois in Broad, which was a very famous klois. The klois was like the earlier version of what we call a koilo, a better word. The klois was basically the top kids of all the surrounding cities would get together. They would get a stipend. But the Broiza Klod was a very famous klois because you had to be there for 7 years and you had to learn 18 hours a day. It was a very serious regimen. And some very big, the Noidi Yehuda came out of the klois in Broad. And that's why you ever heard the story that the Noidi Yehuda's wife was a chassid of the Baal Shem. The famous, it's a legend, but let's say it's a true story, is because of that. Because Baal Shem actually knew the Noidi Yehuda. Because Baal Shem used to derezich in the klois of Broad. Baal Shem used to, Gershon Kitteville learned there. So there was his brother-in-law learned there. So he used to come there. In the Broiza Klod, in the klois of Broad, the klois. So they printed a sefer that was mamash, written by a contemporary by the Baal Shem. The contemporary of the Baal Shem was a Yid called Reb Chaim Tzanzer. Not the Chaim Tzanzer you know about, which is Divrei Chaim, but the original Chaim Tzanzer. Chaim Tzanzer was the Rosh of the klois, and his Talmud Bishayis wrote a sefer. It's kind of interesting. I was just looking through it before. In the Askamas, they have the Shinavas, the Shinavas Divi Cheskel gives Askama the Sefer, which is the Divi Chaim's son, the other Chaim's sons. Anyways, there's big Askamas in there, the original Askamas, the old Belzer and the Cheskel, a lot of Halbashams. Anyways, a Kitzer in the Sefer. Oh, it's getting late. In this sefer, we had a lot of ambitions. In the sefer, Reb Shaila writes like this. The sefer was published like 10, 15 years after the Baal Shem passed away. And it's a fascinating sefer because it's the only sefer that I know of. If you find another sefer, please tell me. That actually explains what the Shem Ayin Beis is. You know what the Shem Ayin Beis, the Shem Mem Beis, the Shem Ayin Beis, which you said before. The Shem Ayin Beis is the 3 psukim. It says 3 psukim, right? But what do they actually mean? Yun Lamed Yud Mem Heshem. What do these names mean? I don't know, but the only person the Arizal actually is already mechaven, and the Ramak already is mechaven that the Mem Beis corresponds to the Tosis actually writes this already. The Mem Beis connected to the first, the preparations Bar Lakim, with Tzirufim, the Ramak has a whole, but it has to do also with the 42 of Hafta, and then the 72 of Vahoyim Shemayim. Right, and that's the way it's set up. So this sefer actually is written on this. It's called Cherev Fis B'Yadam, and it tries to explain actually what the shemas are. What's the Anamikoyach, what's the shemas, and it goes into a long arichis of what these names are. But over here, just to see what was going on in the world during the time of the Baal Shem, because it's Torah Sari, but it's like a very clear definition of what the Kavanas is. You say that over Sheish HaKoil, when he's talking about Pirish Ayin Beis Shemes al Kishma, the page before. he says, you show yourself, Kakol Maseinu Maseinu Levara Pach Mitzoitzim. Shalom Mamshichim Bekoyach HaMitzvah Tefillah V'Mamshichim Moichin Chodashim L'Zah V'Nuka B'Soid Chacham Ki Kol Moichin B'Chinas Chacham Moichin Chodashim Shalom Mamshichim V'Anu Environment Tzutzim Ki Bekoyach Chacham is Beriel Kol Mekoyach Shalom Mamshichim Moichin L'Zah V'Nuka B'Soid Katnas V'Achish Mamshichim L'Moichin Az Mis'alim V'Kam Moichin Al Yoinim. And then V'Vayt L'Chein Kol Ikam Seinu L'Alis Azov V'Nuka Ad Shekal Mazum Du'ak. I don't know if you understand what this means, but I'll tell you what it means very simply. It's a lot of fancy words, and if you know a little Kabbalah, it's not so. It looks very. But basically, what he's saying is, when you're mispalel, this is what he's saying. When you're misal, what are you saying? The Arizal has a construct of katnas and galus, which means like this, in very, very, very simple language, is every world receives from the world beyond it. So this world receives from a higher world, not a higher world from a higher world, a higher world from a higher world. In order for this world to receive proper shefa, it's similar to two parents creating a child. If two parents are creating a child, which means en kisha das, which means when there's a person that has chayas, a male that has chayas, that male can impregnate a female, and then the female can give birth to a child, right? So the creativity occurs when there's a fullness of chayas, a lot of life. The life then impregnates a feminine quality, which is the receiver of that chayas, and then that chayas gives birth to something else. And by the way, that's a construct that exists everywhere. Let's say you have an idea. So you have a chachma, you have an idea to create. Then you have to create with language, which is the bina, which is the mother, the woman, the feminine that holds the quality, and that gives birth to the idea. Let's say if you have a gewaldic intuition, a beautiful idea, and you don't give a language, there's no birth of the idea. Right? How do you birth an idea? You birth an idea is you have a creative idea, and then you have some language to it, which is the nukva of that chachma, the bina of the chachma, which receives that chachma, and then it can be das, it can be a birth. The same thing every single structure. So in the world right beyond us, in the spiritual realm, you have Zohar Ampin, which is a masculine, Malchus, which is feminine, and that's like the world right beyond us. If this world is not in a state of chayas interchanges with the word for moichin. So moichin and chayas are interchangeable. What the Ari generally calls chayas, which is life, what the Baal Shem generally calls chayas, the Ari calls moichin. That has to do with being medieval. I don't want to get into this whole Torah, but if you read a little Rambam and any old Sifri Chikir, you'll understand that in the old way of thinking, the Seichel HaPoyel, Seichel HaNifel, there's a whole thing. Everything is like an intelligence. Moichin was like ruled. Intelligence ruled. The Baal Shem said that it's also the heart rules. So that's like a big dakar. When the Rambam writes, when the Rambam says that Hashem doesn't have any tzura, but then the Rambam said, but he does have one surah. What's the surah? What do you say? If you say that Hashem doesn't have a surah, why do you say Huamadu? That's a question on the Rambam. But the Rambam would say, if Hashem does have a surah, the one surah that Hashem has, the one form that Hashem has, is intelligence. And the Baal Shem would say, and he also has emotions. How does that work with that Hashem doesn't have a tzura, unless the tzura is aguf, and it doesn't have an emotion? So the Alter Rebbe says, that the Alter Rebbe writes in Shari Yichud Emunah, just like the Rambam says, Hu Amadu Yidei V'Yudua, the same thing you also say with Hashem as Oyev, Hu Oyev V'Nev V'Ava. You understand? In other words, Baal Shem just translated also into the level of emotions. So he said that what we talk about Hashem as moichin, which is intelligence, I'm going to talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu as midas. Hafti eschem, Hashem, love. It's a long conversation, but that's the basic understanding. Is moichin versus chayes, but it's talking about the same thing. So if the world is not in a correct state, something is not in a correct manner. A person doesn't have refuah, doesn't have health, doesn't have parnasa, then the shidduchim, shalom bayis. Whatever a person is missing in this world is because the birthing of the bria is not receiving the proper chayes. Which means when there's a healthy zachar with a healthy nekeva, then there's healthy children. So when Zohar Ampin, which is the Zachar, the feminine, the masculine, is together in unity with Moichin, which means through Bina, right? Because that's how Midas receives through Moichin. So because Kishul Das, so the Kishul is not in the Das, the Kishul comes from the Das. So when there's Moichin, which brings about the activeness of the Zohar Ampin, which is the masculine, and that activates a relationship to the feminine, then it can be birth of a healthy child. So when you say that something's wrong in this world, this is the basic Kavanas Ari of all of davening. What you're doing is there's something wrong in the metaboard, in the structure, in the above structure. I am going to now create a new drawing down of a new moichin from Chachma Bina. The Chachma Bina is now going to impregnate, give chayas, give life force to Zar Ampin. Zar Ampin is now going to come unified with Malchus. When you're going to come with you Malchus, there's going to be a birth of a new reality. What's the new reality? It's going to be health, wealth, and parnasa, and shalom bayis, everything that I need. So what's your place in this process? The place in your process is you are basically what? To connect it, right? You're the one that's drawing it down. In the reina oasis of the Mukabalim, like the Shalach Kodesh, the Avodah Kodesh, you'll say that Avodah l'tzorech gavoya, because really it's for l'tzorech gavoya. Really, what you're trying to do is create a healthy here. When there's a healthy here, this is the manifestation of that healthy here, right? This. You're not. In other words, you're not davening. You're not mechaven for the person's parnasa. Remember, we want to understand how's the Arizal's kavanah, how's it doing davening? I'm davening Shemines Rafeinu Hashem, but I'm having to a yicha between the nukva, the zah, the akav. What am I doing? Because you're saying if that is corrected on a spiritual realm, now there'll be refuah on a physical realm.
It is symptomatic
right. This is symptomatic of something that's going on in a higher space. So what I have to do is really create new yichudim that are going down, drawing down new moichin, and if I draw down the new moichin into Zohar Amp, into Malchus, then I receive the blessing, I receive the sustenance, and I receive the bracha. This is the structure. He writes this very nicely in the next page.
And what power do we have to put things together so we can imagine them?
No, not what's the koyach that we have?
Koyach.
The koyach is because our neshama. The koyach is because we come from there. The koyach is because we come from there. Because we're rooted there. We're actually rooted in an even higher place, in Adam Kadmon. So since you're rooted, you're structured in a way that you're harmonious with this reality, you can activate those boards. But if you look at the next column, on the next side, he says very clearly what happens. Yeah, it's very clear mathematics. If we're drawing down moichin shel bina, in moichin the bina now impregnates zalamayla. That affects us. We're Zohar Ampen in this world also. We're the creators in this world. So so therefore, Nikr Bina Amad L'Cheira. Therefore, Bina is called Amad L'Cheira. V'niskenu Mupamim Yud Tzis Samatay. Therefore, the Zohar says that Yud Tzis Samatay is mentioned 50 times in the Torah because Bina is 49 plus 50 is Chamishim Shara Bina. Okay, that's the structure. And therefore, you have to daven every day. The next page. I'm saying bottom. That's why every day you go out of Mitzrayim. Okay. This is the structure. So you have a very Ari version, a very clean Ari version of exactly how you're doing this. But you also have the other way of understanding it, which is what we said before from the Chazak Aretzer, where it says lechaven is to lahashvos. It's actually to be in that same place, right? That was the ikar kavana. So not just the mechaven. Equalize yourself. Yeah, equalize yourself with that place. V'gam lachshav chashbonis ein ikar kavanas hashemes. Rak the dabik lekashmer atzmai. The dabik lekashmer. The next thing is from Sur Mirav Asetoiv, which is a sefer by the Ziddu Shoyim, if you're familiar. It's a very foundational sefer in Torah Chassidus. And the Ziddu Shoyim was a big mekubal also in Torah. The Ziddu Shoyim. The Shoyim, yeah. So the Ziddu Shoyim is also a big mekubal in the Torah Sari, which is not all mekubal, not all Chassidim are. The Ziddu Shoyim and Kamarna, that school were very big mibachavnim. The Lubavitcher, the Rebbe, when he used to quote this sefer, this is here the Haravot, he didn't call it Sur Mirav Asetoiv. He wrote ... Vasetoiv. It's a word, it's a chap.
I remember the Summa a whole lot more.
Don't summer that. There's no summer. This was Vasetoiv. ... If you don't know where you're looking, you'll think what was it? It's a Lishitat. Don't mention the word Ra. Huh? Yeah, v'chulu, but you can't do v'chulu before. You say Vasetoiv. This is said. The Torah of Hashem is the ikar kavanah of davening is lishboich nafshel Hashem. You have it in the left column on the bottom. This is spashas agashmi, the investment of the physicality to have ki ikar tefillah levarberum. Okay, next column, next paragraph. Soid kavanas pri Etz Chaim. What's the soid kavanas? Yilma v'yigei atzmai behem. So he says Yilma v'yigei atzmai behem because that's the shitta of the Kamarna. The next Samach Beis.
It's a different title. No,
Hagdama Deres Chayetz Chaim. It's the same sefer. It's the next page. Seder kavanas pri Etz Chaim. Yilma v'yigei behem. You should study it. You should learn it. You should harden it. But limsum diva chayfetz, dark avodas Hashem. It's a whole different kavana. You should learn this. You should find first with diva chayfetz. What is diva chayfetz? And what your heart desires, some type of connection. And dark avodas Hashem. You should find something that helps you in avodas Hashem. So we're talking about something very, very personal. There's a word God from the Alter Rebbe. He said that the emes, that the Pri Etz Chaim is a sefer in Musar. That the Pri Etz Chaim from the Arizal is not Nachman also says the same thing. That the Pri Etz Chaim is not a sefer on Kabbalah, it's a sefer on Musar. If you look at Pri Etz Chaim, but you have to know how to see it. You have to see it as a sefer on Musar. It's Avodas Hashem. It brings down also, if you look in the bottom is from Tzvi Lamelech. This is from the Dinavar. The Bnei Yissaschar. Yischad on Davik Atzim B'Shoyesh HaMachshava. But then he says, you see, it says over there. He says, "Oh, so then what's the whole idea of kavanas?" He says, "Every person has lefi erech, and in your right time, you're mechavan, and you pick and choose what's the right thing and how you can do avodas Hashem. That's the way it's going to work." Okay. I think we're gonna. Okay, one more Maramakim. One more. Is everyone okay? Everyone's.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
this kind of people. Just getting ready.
Says Zohar Kodesh, the Zohar Parshas B'Kudei. This is a Moed Galashim because it mamish supports the whole thing.
Who's the mission?
Zakoin in Tzadika. It's like 15 lines from the top. Yeah, Cholos Kadishim in B'Kudei. Zakoin in Tzadika. Zakoin, the meritorious, but really it means Zakoin means they're refined. Tzadikim are refined. The Yodel L'Sada Tzelusin Kedaka Yoyes. They know how to Masada the Tefillah in a very refined way. It begin to God the high inun.
What's it?
It's the Zohar. No, it's not. It's the Cholos in Pekudei. Being the high tzlis. Sasha Sharis Listalka. That when the Tefillah is starting to be elevated l'mayla, to elevate it higher. Alin salkin b'hait salusa v'alin. They too are mesalik together with the tefillah v'alin, and they go upwards. When the tefillah is transcending, it's not just they're speaking about, Hashem Yehavach, they're speaking and the words go up. But when they're experiencing the tefillah, right? When the mezakek kedaka yod begin the high salusa shreis l'staka ilon. Salkin by Tzulus v'Alin. V'chol in Rekia to all the Lukiyim. V'chol in Necholin Atar the Pischa di Law. V'Alas Hay Tzulus Kamek Kutshebich L'Sate Kamaditmar. Then they go to the highest level in front of the Hakadosh Baruch Hu, which means that when you're experiencing Shemona Esrei, Tefillah Shemona Esrei, it's not only that you're talking about the Madrega of Atzilus, but you're actually experiencing the level of Atzilus. There's this spashness on the Madrega of Atzilus. Okay, we're going to leave the second half for next time, so maybe we should just hold the package. But I just want to say one thing to wrap this up, and importantly, what does this actually mean? What does this actually mean? What does it mean to experience that Atzilus? Because we're talking about the experience, and the ispashtos that you're experiencing this level of Atzilus. So you said the Atzilus at every level. What is that Atzilus? So the basic structure, which is found in Maseches Atzilus, that's the first makar, is that there are four olamas. There's Atzilus, Bri, Yitzir, Asiyah. So in very simple language, Atzilus is the place of Yichud, the place of unity. Bria is Bar, is already a place of externalization, which is Bereishis Bara. That's what the Zohar Kodesh writes. That Bereishis Bara is Beis, is already Amud Piruda, the second. There's the Torah Atzilus, which is Aleph. Torah the Bria is already the world that's coming, that's already externalized, that's Beis. So that's Bara, Chutz, it's already some externalization. Then there's the world of Yitzir, which is formation. And also then there's the world of Asir, which is the actualization. This parallel is also found in all choker, so all the Rishonim write about it, but they have different language for it. So, for example, the Rambam's language in the Moira is, the Rambam says that there's a poil, there's an actor, there's a chomer, there's a substance, there's a tzura, which is form, and then there's a tachlis, which is the end result. So chomer, poil, chomer, tzura, tachlis. The Maharal writes about it in great length in Dushal Shabbos HaGadol, and the Gar writes in the beginning of Mishlei, Aleph. This is like a certain structure. Then there's Rabbeinu Bechai has a structure, which is Olam HaGalgalim, Olam HaLachim, Mechzev HaNeshamas. There's different words for this, but there's basically a structure of four. What's the structure of four? It's like this. Very quickly. Bidvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu, Uberuach Piv Kol Tzevav. That's an important verse. So Bidvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu means the world is created through speech. That's created through speech. World is created through speech. Then you say Beruach Piv Kol Tzevav, but with the Ruach of Piv is Kol Tzevav. Kol Tzevav is already the Malachim. Angels are created with the Ruach. Then you say that Vayibach La'achav Nishmas Chayim, that Hashem blows into his nostrils the breath of life, which is neshama, man nefach, mesoich nefach, which is breath. So you have speech, wind, ruach piv, which is wind, ruach, and then you have neshama, which is breath, wind, speech. What comes before breath, wind, and speech is machshava. So there's a Tosfos also that says in Rosh Hashanah, when Tosfos says, when there's Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Yeshua, when the world was created, so Tosfos says, to reconcile these two opinions, and there's a poem that one is b'machshava and one is b'dibur, one is b'maisa. So one is the thought, the way you create. First you have a machshava to create, a thought to create, and then you speak it out. So let's say for example in the creation, let's say you want to create something, and if your words had the power to create, if it's Rava Bara Gavra, if you had this koyach Sefer Yetzirah that you were able to create, what you do is you would have first, I have a thought, I have a machshava, then I want to create it. So the way of creating it is I have breath that rises up, that becomes wind within my mouth. Then I use my 5 capabilities of my mouth, which is also called the Hegvuris, the 5 constrictions. So it has the palate, the teeth, the tongue, etc., the throat, the lips. And then when I contextualize sound, it becomes actually words. So the furthest externalization of my thought is when I speak it. So the moment I speak it, why is the image that the Torah uses, that Hashem created the world through speech? Why dafka through the world of speech? Because speech comes from the origin of the poil, from the person that had the machshava. But the problem is that the moment a person speaks the words outward, there's a possibility of hearing those words and recognizing where it comes from, the origin of the idea, but there's also possibly not. So for example, if you go over to somebody after this year and tell this person something which you heard, and the person says, oh, hopefully it'll be interesting, says, oh, that's a very interesting thing, the person could say, that's a nice idea. If the person happens to know me, they sound like, oh, that sounds like something that he would say. Right? Why? Because if you have a relationship to the origin of the idea, then you can see within the words, you can see who the origin of the idea was. So that's why the world was created this way. The world was created through the world of speech. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu set up the creation in a way like this. It says, if you want to be a heretic and you don't want to believe in me, you could. Why? Because I created a world through speech. And therefore, there's a disconnect from the world, the way it exists within my thought, and the way it exists with speech. It became externalized completely. So you can see the vibrations of creation, which is the Dvar Hashem in this world, and you can say, I have a relation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I look at a sunset, and I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I see a flower, I see you, I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Or you say, no, I see molecules, I see stones, In other words, if I have a relationship, and I say, oh, that sounds like something he would do. Say, oh, I look at the world and say, oh, that sounds like something that the Eibusha created. You're following? So the world is inherently a place where there's the possibility for heresy, because that's part of the very constitution of the creation was that the Eibusha created something that's chutz mimenu, so a person could either have a relationship with him or not. This is the level of Olam Hasiyah. This is the Tachlis. This is the way it revealed in its final formation. This is why the world, the Dvar Hashem Shemayim Nasu, when we talk about the Olam comes from the word Helam, that the Zohar writes, so this Olam comes from the word Helam, which means it's a concealment. Why? It could be, because you can look at the world and say, I don't see a creator. And you can't, by the way, this is why you can't argue with an atheist intellectually. through logic. It doesn't work. They used to think it works, and maybe it did work. I don't know. People are not so smart then. I don't know. But they used to think it worked, but it really doesn't work because just like you have one construct, I can think of another construct. The only way you can argue with atheists is to say experiences. Try to experience, Torah, do a mitzvah, and that's the way you're going to feel connected, and then you're actually going to be able to see it. Understand? That's the oimik. The oimik is you're going to experience it, then you can see it. Not I can argue with you because I can't argue with you. If you have one construct, the very way the world was created was in a way that lends itself to the possibility that there could be another possibility, that that creation creates itself. That's the way Hashem wanted the world to be created that way. So that's the world of Olam Asiyah. Now, when a person has a relationship, let's just think about this. When a person has a relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world of Asiyah, how does it translate into your consciousness? Into your consciousness, it means I exist, the world exists, it's just linked to a creator. So creator created a creation, and the link is between creation and creator. But creation and creator are two separate things. There's a creator who created a creation. Now, it comes from the creator, but it's not part of the creator. You're following? And how does it translate into your life is I see the hand of Hashem in my life. If I see the hand of Hashem in my life, which means I am an observer of my life, I have my own life. I'm experiencing my own life and seeing the Yad Hashem in my life. It's a madrega, but it's only in the level of Asiyah. You're following? Because you're saying that the creator, separate from creation, created something, externalized himself, created this world, and you're seeing within the words, you're saying, oh, I recognize the hint of those words to recognize that there's a creator. That's the consciousness, that's the mindset, that's the Havana on the level of Asiyah. The higher Madrega, which is the level of Yitzira, the higher Madrega is Beruach Piv. What's Beruach Piv? It's before the words become ejected. Once the words become ejected, it comes outside. What's the Madrega of the Malach? What's the Madrega of Malach? And this is why Malach does not Bechira. A Malach is the awareness. The Malach is already an entity. It's created. When it's created is a big machlokes or Rishonim also, and also Madrashim. The Medrash says the second day, the fifth day. But the Malach is already a Bria. It's a Nivra. It's a Nivra. It's a creation that is so consumed and overwhelmed with the presence of Hashem, its Ki'ilu still exists within the mouth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're following? That's the image. So it bounces around, meaning it's feeling itself separate. You ever feel the wind in your mouth? I don't know if you did, but maybe. If you feel the wind in your mouth, or something, let's say you're eating, I don't know, there's nothing wind. Let's say you're feeling something you're eating. That thing is separate from yourself, but it's one within you. That's the consciousness of a malach. So what is the experience of the level of Yitzira, which a person experiences? The experience of a level of Yitzira is that I not only feel that this is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I see the Yad Hashem from Hashem. I don't know. Okay, I'm happy you're laughing. It's good for you. Just be joyous. It's all good. The experience is that you actually experience yourself. You feel yourself that you're completely absorbed in the oneness of Hashem. Now you feel yourself separate, and all of a sudden there's a certain sensation like my life is really just being held by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every single aspect of my life. It's not that I have my life and I feel connected. But I'm like a child that's being held throughout my life. That could be like a higher level of experience. And that doesn't mean you experience this all the time. But it could be. Sometimes you're in the middle of the day, or sometimes you're walking down the street and you feel like you're being held. I'm like your life is being held. Nothing is random. Everything has intention, and your life is being held. That awareness of being held, that experience of being held, is the consciousness of Olam HaYitzir. You following? That's the consciousness of Olam HaYitzir. The consciousness of Olam HaBriya is not only Ruach Piv. It's bidvar. It's already. It's even deeper, right? There's befi yisharim tisoimim, besifsi tzadikim tisbaruch, u'l'shay chasidim tiskadash, u'bekerer kedoshim tisalal. So the besifse starts off mechutz safsaim, the lowest level, and then it goes deeper, l'shay until it gets to bekerer. Because so the lashon is the way it exists within the world of breath. What's the world of breath? In the world of breath, it's not only I'm being held, which means I feel myself in a separate being, but I feel myself. It's very subtle because it's still. I feel that not only am I being held, but we need good language for this.
I'm understood.
No, that's for sure. It's for sure. No, but it's like a deeper level of unity, a deeper level of connection. almost like you feel that your experiences in life is a reflection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's. That your life is like, when you say a person has a person lives, it's coming through you. It's not there's one way that I am me, and then there's I am being held, and then there's like whatever has to come through. I think you can think about this like certainly when you have a child. Like when you think about your child is not, your child just came through you. There's things in this world that Hashem wanted to happen to you. It's like to have a child, you don't have to be a Geisel Chacham. You know, there's billions of people who have children. It's not a Geisel Kunst. It's Chacham available. It's a Malach Veinu Chacham. It's not such a big deal. But sometimes you think like, really? I created this? Like, what did I do? I did nothing. Like, especially, you understand what I'm saying? You look at a child and it's like, look at this gift that Hashem gave me. It's amazing. I'm not like a person here that had, I'm going to create a child. And I'm going to, just, you understand? This could be in a child experience, or it could be like in life. Like sometimes something happens and like, you're like, I'm not being held by Hashem. Like, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to like work through me to reveal this. You're following? This is a level of Bria. This is a neshama level. We're talking about the level of neshama. And remember, it's very important to understand these things. We're not talking about, we're talking about things that you have to experience.
So you're a sinner.
I'm a sinner. Exactly, I'm a sinner. I'm just a passageway. Things are just coming through me. A sinner. This is the experience of Olam Abriya. This is the madrega of neshama. I'm not looking at saying my life, Hashem is there and Hashem is present in my life and the Yad Hashem, or not even that I feel cradled and comforted and held by Hashem, but my life it's just Hashem needs to come through me. Everything of Hashem's light has to come through me. This is the way it's revealed. And I think when you think about your children, that's the best way. That's the healthiest way and the real way that we think about them. It has nothing to do with you. And the truth is nothing to do with you. Nothing has to do with you. Not your brains, not what you know, not what you have. Nothing has to do with you. But in your children, you can see it very clearly because, like, what? Like, what did I do? I did nothing. Azaizas. This is the bracha. This is the Olam Abriya. This is the level of neshama that you feel connected. And then there's the highest madrega of experience is that you stop actually feeling yourself. Period. Not that I am a vessel through which everything's coming through. I'm a sinner, a passageway is coming through. Not that I've been held, and not that my life has meaning and I can see the Yad Hashem. That's it. You just drop into this is bittul. This is what the Olam Atzilus is. You're just, I don't know. You're just there's no you. There's just no you. There's no conversation about me being a sinner, me being and I just want to say you can't give it language because the moment you give it language is a you. So that's why I can't. There's no words to explain it. You have to experience it. The experiences, and that's what Shemona Esrei should be. The ideal place. We're trying to get that place of Shemona Esrei. And we'll see the shlavim. There's different targets. That's why there's the davening goes through different shlavim, different passages. There's a sulam. Be'ez Hashem, we'll get to this. And there's different postures. We do things to our body. Everything to align ourselves, to get us to that place, to induce that place that when we finally get to Shemona Esrei. And by the way, this doesn't have to be a 2-hour experience. It could be. But it could be 2 minutes. It doesn't matter. It's just when you get there, you get there. It's like when you hook, it's like you're hooked. When you finally get to that place. But the kavana eventually is to get, when you talk about kavana, we're not talking about drawing things from that's the Torah Sari. And you can do that also, because we'll see. We're going to bring everything together. We're going to make like a big mashal and nimshal together. But in the Torah Chassidus is that you're experiencing it. You're actually going into the place of the Shemona Esrei and you're mechaven, and when you're talking about Atzilus, and you're talking to the place where you're oil l'fnei, this is Lashon HaZoyer, l'fnei, the Tara, the Darta, you're coming to the highest materials, you're there. And you're just there. Things is coming out. Then there's a whole question. How do you daven? Why do you say words? How do you do that? That's all this other conversation. But to get to that place, that's what we're talking about in the Olam Atzilus. That's the Olam Atzilus experience. And that's what we're trying. That's the aim that we're trying to get to. And just remember, we said also before, that there could be the Olam Atzilus of Asiya and of Ritzir and of Bria. And it really depends on the level of how you enter into that place. That's going to be the level of how you experience that idea. Okay, so Be'ez Hashem, we're at least we're starting a process to get to, eventually, to get to the Shemona Esrei. Got it, 3 steps back, 3 steps back. Where does it say you have to take 3 steps back?
The Gemara,
No such Gemara.
the Gemara says that.
In Yuma, that's talking about when after you finish Shemona Esrei.
Okay, but it's the idea of 3 steps back.
No, the Shemona, in the beginning of Shemona Esrei, the Baal Erkech brings down Shulchan Aruch. You just have to go 3 steps forward. Yeah, that's what it says. It's a minhag olam to go 3 steps back. But
in order to
to go 3 steps forward, but but we have there's kavanas also because nothing is a stam. When you go 3 steps back, make it a kavana. Huh? It's science. There's like science. You can't go 3 steps forward. You can't go 3 steps back. Okay,